Very, very much. The scenes in Venezuela, uniquely obtained by Fox Business Network, that show you what it's like when the money runs out and the tempers flare up. These are people in Venezuela seizing food trucks, anything they can get their hands on. A lot of them are moms and dads trying to find some way to feed their kids. That's how bad it's been. Only a few years after Hugo Chavez had promised, almost to the end of time, that all the oil revenues and the taxes on the upper income would support them in an almost idyllic environment that would never end until the rich guys left. The oil revenues stopped, and Venezuela went under martial law. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil CAVUTO, and this is the kind of thing that no less than Alan Greenspan says is possible here if we don't watch what we're doing here. An exclusive chat with the former Federal Reserve Chairman. But first, to the woman who broke that story, got that video, Lizzie McDonald of Fox Business Network. Lizzie, you know, every time I look at these images, especially those Venezuelans rifling through garbage to eat, what happened?
Yeah, it's disturbing and it's graphic. And what is happening there is they were basically ripping through garbage bags outside shopping malls where restaurants are located. And so what's happening right now, hyperinflation is taking hold. I can't even tell you what the rates. It's meaningless. Up 500%, 600% for basic food groups over the last year. What we're seeing here is the middle class and the entrepreneurial class getting demolished by confiscatory tax rates. People telling me, people who live in Venezuela, saying they're starving. We're starving. We have no choice but to go through garbage, as you're seeing in the images right there on camera. With the looting of the grocery trucks on the highway, regular people are driving by and joining in the looting. They're stealing rice in this image. We're getting even more video coming in right now. In this image, you're going to see the National Guard at some point, but they're standing by, not doing anything, letting it happen. So we have Venezuela in a 2-month state of emergency right now, Neil. There's fears, widespread fears in Venezuela that the military will crack down, that there will be a news blackout. They're denying medical help from the World Health Organization because the president, who was handpicked by Chavez, Hugo Chavez, doesn't want to be basically embarrassed. That's a direct quote from people in Venezuela. Socialism, as Venezuelans have experienced it, has been collapsing. So it's a severe debt problem, twice as bad as what Argentina faced in 2001. So this is a fast-moving story, and it's growing more dire by the hour. Back to you, Neil.
You know, Lizzie, what I notice is when soldiers come to approach them, they don't move.
Yeah, that's
right. In other words,
right.
they're so hungry, so desperate, they almost seem to be saying, go ahead, shoot me.
Yeah, that's a great point, Neil. And you know what, Neil, it seems that we've been seeing this in Venezuela, too. People there are saying the National Guard and the military are standing back, and they're letting the looting happen because the military is seeing basically, you know, grocery stores being emptied and food trucks being pillaged, and people are desperate. It's going now beyond the food lines that you have been reporting about for a couple of years now. Now it's going into looting, into major cities in Venezuela, including right here you see in Caracas. So the looting of the grocery trucks are happening outside Caracas as well. Back to you.
Lizzie, thank you very much. GOP strategist Kathy Lynn Taylor, Democratic strategist Richard Goodstein, whether this could be a preview of coming attractions. Kathy, you're looking at this, you hear what Lizzie was saying, this notion that all of a sudden when you run out of money and you run out of people to pay taxes to provide the money, as has been the case in Venezuela for the last few years, the only difference sometimes I think between the Venezuelans and us is we can print money.
That's right, or borrow it. But you're absolutely right, and this is such a compelling video. I mean, 1 in 3 people in Venezuela are living in poverty. That's a striking statistic that's supported by this footage. And you know, we've experienced in our country before periods of socialist rhetoric, but what's so daunting and really frightening about this current period is that we've had a president for the past 7 years who has made the hallmark of his tenure a rhetoric around income redistribution, policies that are really socialist like Obamacare. And so instead of fixing problems like immigration or reforming Social Security, we've now overspent, overborrowed, overregulated,
and by the way, both parties have done so. I mean, Republicans talk a good game a lot of time about getting entitlements under control, getting the budget control, and they don't, and this gets worse. What I worry about, Richard Goodstein, is when give Bernie Sanders his due when he talks about big government and all the stuff that he wants to do. This is for you, Richard Goodstein. Do you find it odd that he knows he can't get it just out of the rich, so he extends it to a middle-class tax hike as well, with the proviso being you're going to get more bang for the buck you're putting in?
Well, you're talking to somebody who's not a defender of the Bernie Sanders line, and I will stipulate that capitalism works and socialism doesn't. I mean, Bernie Sanders keeps talking about Scandinavian countries. There are vast differences between Denmark and the U.S. So honestly, and Bernie Sanders has lost, Neil. I mean, I hate to break it to your viewers. This is not a contest anymore.
Bernie Sanders, whether he's lost or won, or Hillary Clinton. But I am interested in that. What's the difference between the two of them if they're espousing a lot more spending? Not much different than Donald Trump, by the way, who's talked zero about reining in entitlements. So no one is doing squat.
It's worse than that. So Donald Trump, yes. I can't wait to see how he has a meeting of the minds with Paul Ryan, since Trump has said he's doubling down on entitlements and a $10 trillion tax cut. Hillary Clinton, at least look at her website. She pays for everything that she proposes. Are there going to be little tax increases on certain segments of the populace? Yes,
they're not going to be little. They're not going to be little.
Well, the fact of the matter is she hasn't actually had huge proposals for increased programs, and her taxes are really kind of fairly small, and it's all a balance. I mean, again, remember when her husband...
We can argue the semantics of what your definition of fairly small... Kathy Lynn, let's focus on this. I really don't want to make it a political shout fest if I can avoid it. I am worried about what I see going on here in Venezuela, because it wasn't too long ago that they were flush with cash. It wasn't too long ago we were bragging about the fact we had gotten our deficits down to only $400 billion, knowing full well the tidal wave, the tsunami that's coming with baby boomers retiring and all the pressure that's going to put on it. And I've heard scant little, and this is something that worries Alan Greenspan, scant little from either party about how to deal with this.
No, you're right, and it's it's the economy stupid, but we've heard too little about that in this election, and it's one of the reasons people are most angry on both sides of the aisle, across creed, religion, race, and you're absolutely right. And it's not just our country. What happens in Venezuela, as we learned from Argentina and other debt crises, is the risk of contagion, that those nearby fall into similar circumstances, and that starts to impact others, including us.
Bad guys come of contagions, I'll tell you that. And there's already a bad guy there now, and another bad guy could follow. Are you worried about that, Richard?
Absolutely. Well, I'm not so much worried about the contagion, because I think from a distance you can see these are exactly the policies that no neighboring country wants to follow. Who would aspire to have these pictures that Lizzie kind of produced? But so I don't think there's a risk of contagion there, and I think we should sort of step back and look at, we've had a controlled experiment in this country.
My friend, I love you to death. I think you're a great analyst, but there is a very real risk of contagion.
Right. I mean, look
what's
at Cuba
going
and
on
Bolivia.
down there is what's being parroted in so many European capitals, a blithe indifference to basic math. More money going out than is coming in, and they have no idea what to do.
And the only thing I would say in response to that, Neil, is we've had a controlled experiment under Bill Clinton where taxes were raised. We have the single most robust job creation and economic growth of all time.
But the very trade deals that he enacted, his wife is repudiating.
She's not totally repudiating them, but I think what she's saying is, give me the peace and prosperity of the 90s, and I'll take whatever else you have to throw at me.
Then you have to buy everything you did in the 90s, right?
That's right. And you have to be willing to pay more taxes, Richard.
All right. Well, we'll watch what happens. Guys, I want to thank you. And again, I don't want to scare folks, but I saw that happening very close to home here. That was a country that was flush with cash and looked like it had the world was its oyster. That was that. This is now. They're in martial law right now. Now onto something a little bit different, but a little bit